Hello, welcome to Butch's Building Blocks. I'm Butch. I'm here in my cold garage tonight, getting ready to start a brand new project. Tonight, we're going to start building a honeycomb cutting board using end grain. We're going to use black walnut and maple. So come along with me. I'll give you the dimensions, I'll give you some plans, I'll show you how you can make a beautiful honeycomb cutting board for yourself and maybe for a friend of yours. Good thing to always do is to draw out and plan what it is you intend to do. That helps quite a bit. This piece here will be my maple strip, which will be the inside of the honeycomb. The bottom edge will be 2 inches wide, and then we'll have two 30-degree angles, which leaves us a 1 1/16 inch flat space at the top. I'm going to need 1/4 and 1/8 inch black walnut strips to go onto my maple. Down here you can see the 1/4 inch strip will go on the side, the 1/8 of an inch strip will go on top, and here's my glue up as to what it will look like with the pieces there. Now that gives us our interior combs. In order to make our honeycomb look neat, we'll need to have 2 end strips that will be 1 inch on the bottom, the same 30-degree angle, and then a piece on the top, which will be a little over 1/2 inch. And down here, we'll put the top piece on and glue it up so that it looks like that. There's our plan. Now, here we have our piece of maple, 7/8 of an inch thick. Run it through the jointer and the planer to be sure all my sides are parallel. I've set my fence for 2 inches, so let's cut this into strips. One test strip to make sure that my 30-degree angles were correct. My blade's been set. I've got my other pieces, so let's cut one so you can see it happen. Okay, so there's 2 cut. I'm just going to drop the camera off here and finish cutting these, and then we'll bring you back for the next step. Now it's time for our 1/4 inch cuts. We'll take a couple pieces out of there. That was 1 out of 6 pieces. Just like before, I'm going to drop you off, and then we'll pick you up when we go on to the next step. As with any project, when you start it the first time, You take your best guess on how it should proceed unless you have some instructions, and then go forward. In this case, for the glue up, I did make a small mistake. In hindsight, I would, the next time, glue this piece onto my 2-inch wide strip and then cut the 30-degree angles. The reason for that is when I do it this way, I tried to stack them up as if I was making a cutting board, and I could not get them to work because this piece kept slipping down. So I changed my mind, and now I'm just putting a glue strip here, adhering this on, and then clamping the pieces down. There it is, all clamped up. And I just have to wait for about 35-40 minutes. I can pull it off and do the next one. After gluing the top piece on, I went back and used my 30-degree angle to cut these so they're nice and smooth. Our next step is to take one of these pieces and glue it onto the main section. I've already gone out and cut this at a 30-degree angle. When we glue it on, it will fit just like that, so that it's nice and flush on the top. And then all we'll have to do is clean up the bottom. All right, I'm gonna go out into the workshop, cut the other pieces at a 30-degree angle, and then we'll glue them up. We are now ready to glue this piece onto our stock so that it looks like this. Seeing as how we're dealing with angles, I would highly recommend that you cut 2 pieces of scrap wood at 30 degrees, clamp one side down, have the second side free. Glue these together. Be careful that this angle is in the right orientation. Bring this second piece in, clamp it down on top, and then have 3 clamps to pull this in. That way you're assured this will be clamped nice and tight to your jig. This is the end shot of the jig that I made. These 2 are the scrap pieces of pine cut at a 30-degree angle. I also lined the jig with some wax paper to make sure that my glue does not stick to any of these surfaces here. I added 3 C-clamps to keep the pressure down here so that it doesn't slide up, and then the bar clamps pulling it together to make sure that we get a nice smooth seam between the maple and the black walnut. By end vise, or you can clamp it down on the table and then take some down using your block plane. When it's very, very close to the end, I would suggest you stop and then use an orbital sander to cut it down the rest of the way. Here's our pattern. The end piece only has a chunk of black walnut on the bottom. The second end piece has the side strip and the very top strip. So there is a difference there. Other than that, these maple pieces are all lined with black walnut in the same way. This is what it looks like on the end. And this is what your top should look like. We're at the glue up phase now. I have 2 parallel clamps for the bottom. I have 2 more parallel clamps for the top. In this case, because we have so many angles, we're going to need to reinforce our board from slipping. So I've got a nice 1-inch stock of maple, big chunk of hickory here, in which I will clamp these down to keep my boards from sliding. Final clamp up. Parallel clamps, vertical clamps. Seems like you can never have enough clamps. This end here caused me more troubles than the other side, just because these compression clamps wouldn't apply enough force to the wooden bar, where these threaded clamps can apply a great deal more. But anyways, there it is, all glued up. We'll let it sit for a good couple hours before we even think about unclamping it, and we'll wait for tomorrow before I go about planing or anything else to get it smooth. Rip our board into lengths. As you can see, the pattern has come out very, very nicely. The board length is 17 inches. If I cut 7/8 inch strips off of my board, I should end up with 18 cuts so that they match up perfectly. All of our pieces have now been cut to 7/8 of an inch wide strips. Let's now check out our honeycomb pattern. You can now see why we cut a 1/2 inch, half-size strip there, because when we put the 2 halves together, it is the same dimension as the side pieces. And there we go. What a perfect pattern. We're at the glue up stage. I have taken all of our pieces and rotated them so that the glue surface that I want is up. Be sure to check to make sure that your pattern is all in the right orientation, because once you glue it up, it's already done. Our cutting board's been glued up. I have taken off some of the bumps of glue. I've also gone around and squared up all of the edges. Now I need to run it through my planer. In order to run an end grain board through a planer, you have to protect both edges from chipping. For that, we need to put in 2 sacrifice pieces of pine. We finished planing our cutting board, and now it's smooth. The 2 pieces of sacrifice pine kept my edge from flaking off in the planer. As you can see, there's one place here where it did bust it up pretty good. But we're going to cut these pieces off. Anyways, now I have to take this to the sanding area, and we'll start sanding at 80 grit and work our way all the way up to 320. I have sanded our cutting board down to 120 grit. It's now ready for me to put the 1/4 inch round over on both the top and bottom side. This top side, that 1/4 inch round over, looks really nice on that design. I'll do the other side, but for now, I'll turn my camera off. Here's our honeycomb board. It is sanded to 220 grit. We have a 1/4 inch round over, and now we're going to apply some butcher block. It's a mixture of mineral oil and beeswax. It will bring out the color and the grain very, very nicely. Wow, that looks really, really good. I'm very pleased with the hexagonal patterns and the dark walnut borders that we put in here. I'm going to let this dry for an hour or so. I'm going to buff off the excess, and we'll have ourselves a finished board. Our honeycomb pattern cutting board has turned out spectacular. You can see the honeycomb pattern in here. It is just wonderful. I hope I've given you enough information. I hope some of the tricks that I've showed you with the jigs helps you out. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you like more of my products, please go to butchersbuildingblocks.com.